Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Great to see so many folks. Just giving it a sec as people are joining into the call. Welcome, welcome. Welcome in, folks. Welcome in, everyone. It's great to have so many awesome folks here for our fourth week. It's crazy how fast time flies of our Holding All Power Holders Accountable series. Going to give it a sec as folks are joining in, but definitely welcoming folks in the chat if you want to, reintroduce yourself, put your name, pronouns, what organization that you're a part of. If you are a part of an organization, definitely, introduce yourself into the chat. So I'll say I might not have introduced myself on any of the prior calls, but my name is Nick. I'm an organizer with the Debt Collective, fighting to cancel student debt, school lunch debt, other kinds of debt, kind of crazy that any of this exists. But great to have so many wonderful folks here on the call. I see Michelle from Philly and West Philly. Awesome, Michelle. Oh, hey, Michael from Harrisburg. Good to see you. Awesome. Clara from you, Justice. Awesome. So yeah, feel free, folks, join on in, share your name, what organization that you might be a part of, if you're a part of an organization. Anything else is we're welcoming folks in, giving that a second. And also something that I always like to say is, if you're in a place and space where you're able to turn on your camera and, feel inclined to do so, feel free. I always love to see, wonderful folks' faces and places that you're within. Always can make things feel so lively to see people on screen. But no worries if you can't. I totally understand it. But good to see so many awesome folks here. So as we are here tonight, again, week 4, kind of crazy that we've made it all the way to week 4. We have this and one more week to go, which is awesome, in our Holding Power Holders Accountable series. Tonight, we are focused on these 3 main things. These are, kind of the goals of this session, right? We're going to talk about how to find a bill on the state website. Then we're going to talk specifically on researching and then analyzing a bill. So those are kind of the 3 main goals that we're going to be, focusing on here tonight. I know we already did a lot in some of the prior sessions, which I think helped to build on to where we're at. I know just, last week when we were, really talking about, specific legislators, following the money and leading into, what are the bills that, maybe are passed, or what are the bills that are proposed or put forth in these ways, and how is that, right? So as we talk tonight, really focusing and drilling in on the components of bills within the state legislature. And as we go off into this wonderful call with all of you, I'm going to popcorn it over to Nijmi as we're going to do tonight's Mystica.
Thank you so much, Nick. And Nick just had a birthday, so feel free to share in the chat a happy birthday, or throw up an emoji. So yeah, so Mystica, hey everyone, I'm Nijmi Zakia Zarinko. I'm in Clearfield, Pennsylvania. I'm a member of the PA Poor People's Campaign Coordinating Committee, also with Put People First PA and the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. Mystica is a concept that we've inherited from the landless workers movement of Brazil, the largest social movement of the poor and dispossessed in the Western Hemisphere. And it means the spirit of the struggle. It is the deeper meaning of why we are here, why this matters to us, why our people, our families, our communities, the planet, all matter to us. And it helps us tap into an emotional level, a level that's not just about thinking, but about feeling, about our emotions, about our hopes and dreams. And so tonight we're going to watch a video that's actually harkens back to our 2018 launch of the campaign, our Moral March on Washington. This is a song by Matthew David Morris. He wrote this song for the June 23rd, 2018 Memorial March on Washington that closed out the 40 days of action and launched the national gathering and the national organizing drive of the Poor People's Campaign. And this was a recording from the opening of the Thursday evening tent revival on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So take some moments here to transition into the space and just really enjoy the music, get settled, breathe, relax, and listen.
We have come to liberate you from all the ways that you hold us down. When you hurt me, you hurt you too. When you free me, you free yourself. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Yes? Would you sing that with me? Okay, I'll sing the line, you sing it back to me. We have come to liberate you from all the ways that you hold us down. When you hurt me, you hurt you too. When you free me, you free yourself. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Now you. Everybody rises, that's right. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. You. Poor folk are the first to suffer in this war economy. But I'm your daughter, I'm your mother. We're a chosen family. All together, when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Woo! When you live from the bottom, everybody, ooh, sing it again. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises, that's right. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Hear this. We need air that's clean to breathe. We need water we can drink. You might say that we are weak, but we are stronger than you think. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Oh, when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Okay. So now when I say we have come to liberate you, it's because liberation is not something they're giving to you. We do not march to the Capitol so that they will give us liberation. That is not how liberation works. When we say we are here to liberate you, we are saying that when they hurt us, when they hold people down, they too are wrapped up in this evil, and we are saying we are here to free you from it. That's the gospel, my friends. That is the gospel. So let's sing that again. And remember that next time you march to the Capitol, y'all, that we are not there asking for something from them, that we are going there to give something to them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So sing with me. We have come to liberate you, sing. From all that ways you hold me down. When you hurt me, you hurt you too. When you free me, you free yourself. You free yourself. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Yeah. Live from the bottom, everybody rises. One more again. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Oh, you live, everybody rises. Oh, when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody. Now just y'all, sing it out. From the bottom, everybody. Yeah. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Keep it up, y'all. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Last 2 times now. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. All right, bring that message to them, y'all. Let's free some people. Peace.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nick. Doing tech for us tonight and getting us started off. Yeah, who else loved that song? I've heard it so many times, but it's one of my favorites, and maybe it's new to you. Such a great concept and thought as well. And in the Poor People's Campaign, one of the things I really love about us is that we are a singing movement. You know, a movement that sings together can also take action together. And so appreciate that. Love that song, and much appreciations to the musician and the author. Tonight we are going to dig into how to read a bill, but all of our sessions connect to each other, and so we're on session 4 tonight. Wow, this is amazing, right? How much we've already done together, the relationships we're starting to build. And we've already learned a lot of things about the legislature, right? And so we want to connect up what we're doing tonight to our previous sessions. We've already established that we don't engage with the legislature because we think the politicians are coming to save us. We engage because we are political. We are politically independent, but we are political. And we know that the united action of the poor and dispossessed is incredibly political, because the way to liberate, right, as we heard in the song, is to really change and organize society in our interests, organize society in the interests of the 140 million. And that is a fundamentally political act. So politics goes beyond voting. It goes beyond electing people into office, and even goes beyond, you know, engaging with them. It's entirely about our organizing, our unity, our power, our clarity, commitment, connectedness, competence, and creativity. So we already know that we've learned and seen firsthand, right, that our state and our legislature is competing with other states for jobs and investment in a race to the bottom. We've already learned that both parties serve corporate interests and do not want to disrupt the status quo at the highest levels, right? And also at the level of the legislature, right? Most bills passed were irrelevant to the basic human needs of working class people. And we're actually going to look a little deeper tonight at the study that we have done of all of the bills passed in the 21-22 legislative session, that shows what we're saying here, right? We suspected it was true, but then we did analysis of all the bills passed during a particular session, and it showed that was true. And tonight we're actually going to see a short clip from that process, and actually one of the folks in that process um, who did the analysis of the bills. I was very lucky and fortunate to be part of that process and to work with a few other people. And the thing that I want to say is that when we embarked on this analysis of the bills in the legislative session, it's not because we were experts. It's not because we're lawyers. It's not because we've gone to school to study these things. It's because we were bound and determined to figure this stuff out together, to figure out how to make this kind of analysis. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to be here for each other, to support each other, to work together collectively to make an analysis of our situation, to make an analysis of the forces that we're up against, and to make an analysis of our own organizations and work and forces. All of those things are really important. So sometimes we have to take things up that other people don't want to do or won't do. When we wanted to do this, undertake this bill analysis, we went to some established organizations that do research, and we said, hey, would you help us with this? And they said no. And so what we did was that we ended up having to do it ourselves. And I think that we did something that was really powerful, really profound. And I'm excited that we're going to get a chance to look at it a little bit more deeply tonight, and kind of understand more about that process. And we'll share in the chat as well a reminder about where to find that information on our website. But so just reminding us that we know some about how the legislature works from our own experience and from our research. And tonight we're going to delve a little bit deeper into specifically the bills in the legislature. What are these folks doing? They get, we've looked at their salaries, we've looked at all the different ways that they're compromised, and their actual work of passing laws and passing bills is what we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into tonight. And yes, thank you. So as this example shows, this is the analysis from our bills passed in the 21-22 legislative session, that only 18% of the bills could be said to be helpful to the working class. And even of those 18%, the scope and the scale of them was not large, actually. And so over 81% could be said to be either neutral, irrelevant, or hurtful. This is what our analysis showed, and we're going to take a deeper dive and actually look at some of the bills that were analyzed through this study tonight.
Hi, everyone. So before we get into reading a bill, we're going to talk real quick about how to find a bill on the PA Legislature website. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. So this is the new website that they had just released. And if you're looking for a bill, there's a couple different ways to find a bill you're looking for. If you happen to know I'm sorry, let me talk first about what bills do. So what bills do is they can either create a new law or they can make a change to an existing law that's out there by modifying the existing language. They have to be introduced by a legislator. And then once they introduce that, they will post a memo on the website to say, this bill that I am introducing does these things, and people can, and other legislatures can decide to co-sponsor the bill along with them to basically say, I agree with what this bill is trying to do. After a bill has been introduced into the legislature, the bill will then be assigned to a committee, which is like the most appropriate subject matter experts for that area of law to look and analyze the bill and discuss it and see if it makes sense to move forward. And we've talked about the process a couple weeks ago where it goes into the committee. They will hopefully debate the bill, possibly add amendments, vote on whether the bill should advance or not. Once it is advanced from there, it will go to a couple other committees and then finally to the floor of the chamber that it's going to be voted in. And then if it passes one chamber, then it goes to the other chamber and goes through the same process. It'll be put into a committee, it'll be discussed, possibly amended, et cetera, et cetera. And if it gets through the second chamber, then it goes to the governor to sign and become a law. So, or to change an existing law. So if you want to find the bill that you care about, if you know the name or the number of the bill, this search box in the middle here will let you search for a bill from this session to see, so that you can jump directly to that. So I'm just going to jump to this bill real quick. So this is, I typed in HB 744. You could also type SB. HB stands for House Bill if the bill is on the House side. SB is a Senate bill if it had originated on the Senate side. And it will bring you to the information about the bill itself. If you don't know the number of the bill, but you know that the subject of the bill, you can enter information about the subject of the bill. For those of you in March on Harrisburg, you're very familiar that we are always pushing for a gift ban. So we've got two bills that came up here under the subject of gift ban. I just happen to know that this is the one that we looked at just a second ago. I'm sorry, that was just a memo about the gift ban before it was introduced. Oh, yeah, this is the memo, and then the link to the bill itself would be down here off of the memo. This is the same screen we looked at before. This other one is a memo over on the Senate side that Senator Baker introduced that has some gift ban bills as well. And again, you can click on the number, the SB 66, to look at the specifics of the bill itself. There's a bunch of information on this page. There is the prime sponsor. This is the legislator that introduced the bill. Co-sponsors are those legislators that we talked about before that are co-sponsoring this. They agree with the bill and they want to support it going forward. Also on the right here, there's some other controls here about the bill. The one that's most important to us is selecting the current text, which will actually bring up the text of the bill itself. And we're going to talk about what all of this means in a second. But that's the process for finding a bill. A third way to find a bill is if you know the legislator who introduced the bill or co-sponsored the bill. You can search for the legislator. We talked about how to search for the legislature previously. And at the bottom of the screen here, it will show you some of the bills that they have either introduced or are co-sponsors on. It will show you the top 5. This link here will, if you view more, will show you all of the bills that this particular legislator has put their name on. Senator Baker is a very busy legislator. She's got a lot of stuff going on here. And you can find bills that way as well. And yeah, so I will pass it on to Lauren so we can talk about the actual content of the bill.
Awesome. And am I sharing my screen for this Canva presentation, or is that back to Nick? There we go. Awesome. So
Lauren, I think maybe if you could share your screen.
me,
Oh,
sorry, I think it's Nick's sharing his screen right now.
You
sorry.
can share your screen, Lauren, if you need to.
Or Lauren, if you want to send it to me in a private chat, I can share my screen.
Yeah, I think that we're supposed to go on to the video.
Right.
I'm sorry, Nick, are you able to get that? Or okay, perfect, thanks.
In the meantime, Martha, I saw you put in the chat if we could go over that demo section a bit slower again, and I'm happy to do that one-on-one with you after tonight's course if you want to stay on a bit or set up a time and go do that demo too. And we'll have a section later to go over any questions as well.
And also this recording will be available, so you can always go back and rewatch it as many times as you need.
And then how you applied that analysis to the.
Oh, and so this is going to be a video going over from a previous event how we read a bill and how we frame the bills.
To the bills.
Sure. So you all developed the framework kind of kind of how we were going to use the moral budget put out by the Poor People's Campaign, kind of as a rubric, a loose rubric to kind of analyze these bills. And so what I did was use, I think the group put together a spreadsheet to kind of record all of this data. And what I did is just went through each bill and did my own analysis. So my process was just kind of for the nitty gritty. My process was to, I used the legislative website. I read all of the memos. Usually there's at least one memo that goes out for each bill. I read the executive summaries, which are usually put out by the budget committees, kind of delineating what the bill's about and what the cost will be. And then I would read the bill itself. And I did that in tandem with kind of searching for any kind of news briefings and analysis that was going out there. So usually at least one of the parties would have some kind of announcement of this bill and what it entailed, some kind of their perspective of it. A lot of bills, for example, the ACLU puts out their own analysis of various bills that intersect with their own campaigns. If there were environmental groups working on a bill, they would have their own statements. So I would just really go through, and then of course when the governor signed the bill, if these were important bills for policy, there would usually be a statement from the governor, and sometimes some pretty substantial reports. So for example, there was a bill that extended COVID measures, and so there was a like 60-page executive summary of that bill that kind of went through line by line each policy, whether or not it was being extended or terminated, because this is, the 2022 legislative session. So some COVID policies are being rolled back, some are staying in place, some have to stay in place until different departments kind of catch up. So that's so that's basically the process. I did as much reading and analysis of the bill itself, but also of, kind of the information coming out around each bill. I can't say I read every single word of every single bill, only because some bills, because are hard to decipher if you don't know the background. So for example, the COVID bill has a bunch of references that don't make it necessarily clear in the bill itself what's happening unless you read the, the governor's like summary that comes with it. Or, you know, bills, for example, that are renaming roads sometimes will have 60 pages of, you know, the legal definitions of each road. You know, so you know, I didn't necessarily waste time reading through all of the, you know, legal definitions of, you know, what intersection to what intersection. But otherwise, I did do a pretty in-depth reading of each bill and of the information that came out around it. So anyway, that was my process. I input, what I tried to do is I put in all of the links, and then I did a summary of the bill with all of the news links, and any other kind of pertinent information that other departments were putting out around the bill. Put links to all of that in those summaries. And then there was a section that was like, what could we do better, or how can we analyze this, that I would use, and I used that section to refer back to the moral budget and whether or not this particular bill touched on anything in the moral budget, and whether or not it was moving towards one of the goals of the moral budget or moving away from it. And so that's basically what I did. The you know, whether or not it was hurtful or helpful or neutral or undecided, those I put in, but I did ask for a lot of input for that from other team members. And so I think maybe Kemi and Karen can talk a little bit more about that process.
All right, so that was wonderful and gives a really good framework on how we handle bills, and also on the project that the PAPPC undertook to categorize all of the bills being passed as, you know, good or, you know, harmful or neutral to the interests of working people. So with that, also my name is Lauren. I'm with March on Harrisburg. And I am going to go over now how to read a bill. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Bear with me momentarily. Sorry, my tab is not coming up. Let me try again.
Lauren, I do have it in my email if you need.
Okay, yeah, I think
That's
I'm going
helpful.
to try one quick time here to see if I can find it. Here we are. Okay. So just to talk first before I go into looking at this bill, bills are oftentimes meant to be confusing. They're meant to be perplexing. It can feel really intimidating to start reading bills. It is something that you can read. You can do it. It's not something that is necessarily always intuitive, and that's okay. It's something that requires practice. I've had a lot of practice with it. That's the only reason why I know how to do this. You know, it's not something that we get taught in school, a lot of times even at the college or university level. But this is our government, and we deserve to know what's in these bills. And this is how you become an effective advocate, is you practice these things. So we're gonna do it together. We're gonna learn together. I would encourage you to not feel discouraged if something is confusing. We're gonna do it together. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the chat. And I'm happy to answer it. And if anybody can let me know if something comes through, that would also be super. So we can now put into effect some of the skills that Jeff showed us. So I'm on the Pennsylvania Legislature website right now, and we're going to look at a bill from 2021. So up here, we can see that you can go back to old sessions. So I'm going to click on the 2021-2022 session. I know that my bill is SB, so Senate Bill 709, and then I'm going to search for it. So this bill is otherwise known as the CMV Education and Newborn Testing Act, and we will go through it together. I want everybody to, as best you can, keep in mind what we've already talked about and how, some bills are neutral or harmful or helpful, and kind of keep that framework in mind and question whether or not this bill, which category it fits into, who's this going to affect, and everything else. Oh, go ahead, Andrea.
Lauren, would you be able to put the link to this bill in the chat? I think
Yes.
we're going to follow along on their own computer.
Sure. Where is the chat? Sorry. I'm having a hard time getting it to pop up. Sorry.
All good. Jalissa, if you want to pop, I think you said you had the link. If you want to pop the link in the chat, that would be great.
Yep, I'll pop it in while Lauren.
Thank you so much.
Yep, no worries.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go. All right. My taskbar finally worked. Here we go. Hopefully that should work for folks following along. So we're going to start small with this bill, focusing on the details, and then towards the end, we're going to zoom out. So keep those big, broader thoughts in your head about who this is working for and who this might affect. So up here, we can see that this is the title of the bill, Senate Bill 709. It's from 2021, and it's introduced by these people here. So the first name is going to be the person who introduced it at first. And then all of these people are co-sponsors. So these are other senators who have co-sponsored the bill. And it's been amended in 2022. So this is just going to say at the top here, we have section 1. So these are all going to be done in sections. Those are just to essentially say that these are the most important parts of the bill, and we're going to separate them out for organizational purposes. So here is the other title. So it can have 2 titles, the official bill number and then the bill name. So section 2 right here, this is something that's going to be important for content. So I'm going to highlight I'm going to do my best to highlight in yellow the things that are just administrative things that you should know. And then in pink, we're going to have the important parts of the bill and things like that. So this is the definition section. This is essentially a dictionary or a glossary for the important terms that are going to be in this bill. The executive, so the governor and the bureaucracy, and the judiciary, so judges, are going to use this section to figure out what the bill means when they're implementing and interpreting it if it becomes a law. So we can see that this bill is going to define things like birthing facility and certified nurse midwife. These are things that you can come back to later if you're curious about terms in the bill. So we can see also, once we get down here, we get to something that is crossed out. So that means that this is not going to be in the bill. This was actually amended out. So what that means is that it was introduced at first by one legislator, and then either that same person or a different person introduced an amendment to this bill and struck that part out of it. So this is not going to be in the bill once it passes. It's not going to become law. So generally, that's something that you can skip over. Sometimes that's something that you're going to be interested in knowing, but it's not going to be in the law. And so it continues on with the definitions here. So we can see as well that we're going to get down here to section 3, and this is going to be titled informational publications by department. Essentially, this just means that we're moving past the definition section, and now we're into the stuff that's actually going to create a law. So in this section, we see that there's going to be it says general rule, the department shall make the following available on the department's publicly accessible internet website. This just means, they're using fancy terms here. This just basically is like a letter or a memo to the Department of Health that says, Dear Department of Health, please put the following on your website here. So the incidence of CMV, which is a viral infection, I think, and all of these things here, as well as contact information. So this is saying that those things have to be on the website. And then it says, Department of Health, when you put this on the website, please ensure that it follows these standards, they've already been created at the national level. We'd like you to continue following them at the state level when you put this on your website. And then we're going to move into a different section. So this says dissemination of information on CMV. So it's going to require essentially healthcare practitioners who are responsible for a pregnant patient to tell them what's on the website of the Department of Health. And that they should, do what's on the website. And you can see here again, this information was amended out of the bill. So it's no longer going to become the law. It was in the first draft, but it's not going to be in the second draft. And there's more stuff that's in the first draft, and we're just going to ignore that for now. And it's just going to keep on listing these things. So this is something also important to note. Sometimes if you're not interested in the specific details, you can just say, okay, what's the general gist of this big long section? Because this is just saying essentially that all of these people, anybody who assumes care of a newborn child, so any sort of doctor, nurse, whomever, needs to offer or to refer the parents a screening for this disease or virus in compliance with this other act. And this one just is what it says, consent required. Parents have to consent to this. And that you can't perform screenings on children whose parents don't consent. And then this is how they want them to do it, to do the screenings. They need to do these things here. Oops, I don't want to do that, but they're going to do the screenings in this way. Oh. And then it just is going to clarify. Sometimes bills will have clarifying language like this. Nothing in here means that you have to or don't, nothing, you can't tell parents that they can't have this test in here as well. And then this is also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I see that. I know that you're almost done, but there's some activity just going on. I just wanted to, I know we're going pretty quickly through all of this, so
Oh, sorry, yes.
No, it's not on you, Lauren. I know we have a limited amount of time. There was one question if the capital letters mean anything different than the lowercase, where some of the sections.
To my knowledge, no. That's an excellent question. So Pennsylvania is just plainly, it's weird. The way that they write bills here is strange. It's not intuitive. I'm also, after the session, there'll be something made available to, I'll make my annotations available. I'm going to do a much more detailed job to explain these things. So don't worry if you're missing something as well. One of the main things is just, there's a lot of formatting stuff. I can make that available. Not all of the weird formatting things are happening in this bill, but yes, to my knowledge, caps lock doesn't mean anything, but honestly, it could. I'm learning just like everybody else, always. Yes, I think it should be on the email, or at least it'll be on the, it'll be on the email, I think.
Yeah, we'll definitely follow up over email with this. And then also want to acknowledge something that Brian just put in the chat, a link for others if they also would like a little bit more. It does seem like there's some definition of the capital. It's only of the capital letters. It's only used in bills that have been amended. So again, like Lauren said, we're all learning. But then also, Lauren, maybe I see you're almost finished, but when you're done, if you could also, I know you talked a little bit in the beginning about the help versus hurt versus neutral, and this being a bill that kind of
we're gonna go over that in just a second.
Perfect. Great, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, no worries. And then at the end, so the sections don't remain the same every time. It's just usually there will be a definition section at the bottom, and then when this section is going to go, when this bill will go into effect at the bottom. But the middle ones are really content heavy, so it's really just based around organizing the subjects of the bill so that they are as legible as possible, or sometimes to obscure things as well. But generally to make it so that it's clear for people who are going to implement this bill or the courts who might decide cases about it. So then here, this just says that within 2 years of the date the Department of Health will need to promulgate the regulations. So that just means please do this within 2 years, or you have to do this within 2 years. And a lot of Pennsylvania bills will take effect in 90 days. This bill actually takes effect immediately. So what that means is that it's starting the clock on those 2 years up here. So that's kind of the very zoomed in details of this bill. And I'd like to go back to what we talked about towards the beginning and also in that video a few minutes ago. So what does this bill really do? Because it seems like it's promoting access, but is it actually, you know, you can pop it in the chat or raise your hand. Do you see this bill actually helping working people? Is there funding attached to it? Does this bill expand access to healthcare? Right, I'm gonna go back up and we can just go back through now that we know some of the basics. So back up here, we have that they're gonna put some stuff on their website. The Department of Health, they need to put this information about this virus on their website. That's not really helping anybody. That's pretty neutral. It's a pretty small thing, if you ask me. There's nothing in here about funding these tests for newborns. It's just something that the parents can elect or not elect to do. It doesn't give any sort of funding. It doesn't really improve access. It just says that you have to be offered this test. And if you don't take it, then that's fine. So it is pretty neutral. And this is the type of bill that a legislator might sell as, oh, I'm really expanding access to healthcare or something like that. But really, this is pretty neutral. It's not improving access, especially not if you can't afford this test. It's not doing much other than putting some stuff on a website and making sure that a nurse or a doctor or a midwife or whomever is assuming care of a pregnant person or their child, you know, that's essentially what it's doing, asking them to offer this test or offer a referral. So essentially what my point is that if this were truly a helpful bill, it would be part of something way bigger, offering funding, expanding access to healthcare, but really this is just something that's super small. It's a drop in the bucket, and even at a drop in the bucket, it's just neutral. Yes, exactly. As Andrea is saying, this is extremely specific and tiny. And it's not saying, hey, Pennsylvania, healthcare is your human right. Hey, we're going to give you Medicaid coverage. Hey, we're going to pay for this test for you. Like nothing like that is happening here. This is small, extremely niche, not really doing a whole lot here. Yes, exactly, Nick. Searching for money and funding, that's something to look for in these bills. Is this bill putting money towards something? Or is it just name and bridges and telling people to put things on their websites? Yes, exactly. This is something like Nijmi's saying, this is claiming the accomplishment. This is the access to healthcare that you've been looking for, but it's really not. And we won't be fooled by these kinds of bills. If anybody has any further questions, I'm totally happy to answer them, but otherwise I am also happy to pass it off. All right. I think Julissa, are you next? I don't have the, oh, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Lauren. I was just going to give one last chance for anyone if they have any reflections on the bill. Again, I know we have a limited time and it's hard to digest these kind of things, when, especially if it's our first time, but definitely want to give a chance if anyone wants to try to give a quick reflection. Also, yep, Andrea just put in the chat, happy to work one-on-one with folks. And also going to read aloud her comment: when looking for funding in bills, also see how it scales in comparison to our state budget, which, folks remember, we learned gives millions in tax cuts to corporations and does very minimal to the working class of Pennsylvanians. Go ahead, Robin. Just if you could, a quick summary, sir, because I know we are short on time.
No. I just I was looking up what that disease was, and it's like herpes. So what it basically is offering parents they can get their children tested for herpes when they're born, which I mean that would make sense to do. I don't know why they needed to pass legislation to make it done, but because when I don't understand a word, I'm taught to look it up so I can at least try to wrap my head around. But basically, that's what it is. It's to say that they have to offer that testing to newborns.
Awesome. Thanks, Robin. Awesome. Yes, I see some stuff going on in the chat. Please feel free to continue adding your reflections. I'm just going to take a couple of quick minutes. Oh, sorry. My name is Jalissa. I'm with MILPA, which is the Movement of Immigrant Leaders in Pennsylvania. MILPA is also part of the Driving PA Forward Coalition. The Driving PA Forward Coalition is a coalition that fights for the expansion of the non-real ID driver's license in Pennsylvania, specifically for those who are undocumented. So that's just a little background of the coalition. I want to give, in specific, we're going to talk a little bit about the bill that we wrote as a coalition and show kind of the difference between a bill that would actually do something for hundreds of thousands of people. This bill that we are talking about, it would give 160,000 people undocumented immigrants, the access to mobility in Pennsylvania. As I'm sure a lot of folks know, depending on where you live in the state, you need access to mobility to just get to the doctors, get to the pharmacy to pick up your prescriptions, your grocery store, your children from school. It's definitely something that you need. So I'm going to share this. I actually will preface that there's also a difference as we were beginning to learn a little bit with Lauren. This bill that I am sharing right now is in its original form. So this is actually from the last session, House Bill number 769. And again, this is in its original state, meaning that it was not amended, it did not go up for a committee, it did not have any additional language. So this language that is all on here is language that we as a coalition, as MILPA, have written. I will say I was 14 years old, so almost 10 years ago at this point when we first got together every Thursday in Harrisburg. We would join together weekly until we figured out how to write our own bill to almost 10 years ago at that point. And as a lot of folks were mentioning, we're not lawyers. I'm not experienced. I was 14 years old. I was barely in social studies. So it is definitely a learning curve for everyone. And it's definitely something that, as folks were mentioning, again, like it's not a system that's built for us. It's supposed to be difficult. Well, it's not supposed to be difficult, but they've made it difficult. And that's exactly why we need to continue learning and being part of this political process. I will also preface this bill that we're going to read. I'm still educating myself. Our coalition is still educating. So there is actually some updates to this bill that we will be reintroducing in this upcoming session. But just for time, we're not going to go over everything that, like kind of what we did with Lauren. Just wanted to give a general overview. And sorry, I'm just going to take a look at the chat in case I'm missing anything. Okay, so I'm just gonna give a little bit of sense. Again, I'm not gonna go through the details of everything, of the formality of the language. The one things I do want to make sure to be specific about is in this original form, everything that is underlined is stuff that we are adding to the current law. So everything that you see on here that is not, that's in regular text, that's what's already currently in the law. Everything that is underlined, it's stuff that we are adding into the law. For example, here, the law was previously a form, being the ID, a driver's license. You would have access to it if you had just a social security number. What we are saying is you could have a taxpayer identification number, which is how immigrants pay taxes. And then our updated language also says other identifiers. So that's also going to expand it for those also who do not have access to an I-10. Then again, in this original state, because this has not been amended, it does look a little bit different than what we just read with Lauren. But these things that are highlighted it's what's currently in the law that we're hoping to take out. So you can see here, this is for, again, non-citizen application. So there is currently a way for non-citizens to get access to a driver's license, but it is very, very troublesome. It's very, very difficult to actually access. So I'm going to, just again for time, going to skip some of this, but I just wanted to highlight, for example, some of the things in this that is currently already law. For example, the person has to submit a waiver obtained from the federal government permitting him not to have a social security number, social security number. So an undocumented immigrant is supposed to go to the federal government and get a waiver saying, hey, you didn't give me a social security number, but I need to go get a driver's license, which is very dangerous actually for an undocumented immigrant to go to the federal government and expose their immigration status. So again, this is like what's currently in the law that is very dangerous for a subset of our folks. So that, for example, is something that we are hoping, or that we would be taking out of the current statute. Also, again, just for time, I'm going to skip some of this. The main thing, excuse me, the main thing that you can see here is a bunch of underlined. All of this is things, again, that we have added to the current law. So all of this that is an underline, as you can see, this is a lot. I'm not going to go in not going to go in detail in these, but all of this pertaining here is what we call Section K of our bill, or it has to do with the privacy of our bill. Right now, this specifically, and everyone actually has access, and by everyone, I mean different entities have access, and different databases and different data brokers have access to your personal information, regardless of your immigration status. So our privacy language has some language and making sure that third parties specifically do not sell information to ICE. We want to make sure that if someone is, once we pass our bill, and once those who are eligible and who are undocumented to actually get a driver's license, then make sure that ICE then doesn't have the access to be able to retaliate and use some of those people's information, because of course your driver's license has your photo, address, name. So we want to make sure that those people are protected. So just for time, because I see we're almost at about time, I'm going to pause there and just see if there's any questions for me. And then I did see a question on how do you know who and how the bill was amended? So I can go back to, this was just a PDF version, but I can go to the actual website in a second to show folks, or we can go to the first Senate bill that we just looked over, but there will be different versions of the bill. So the first version, as I mentioned, would be the one that was plainly introduced, and then as it keeps going through committee or the House floor, Senate floor, etc., that's when it has the chance to be amended. So sorry, I'm trying to catch up on the chat. So I can say a little bit of the response to this bill in the House. The response to this bill in the House has been something that they have not considered a priority. The House Democratic Caucus and leadership has not been wanting to move this forward. It is something that they have considered to put themselves in danger, as folks may or may not know. The House Democratic leadership only has leadership by one vote. So it is currently 102 to 101 legislators in the House of Representatives. Due to that, not only just for the front of struggle of immigrants, but in general, for a lot of our fronts of struggles, it has been something that they have shown a lot of cowardness to not want to move anything, quote unquote, controversial forward. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on chat. Yeah, and I see there's folks, if there's any list of questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or happy to look through them afterwards.
Yeah, I know, Martha, I think I tossed a few to, I think, Bob's question on that. I think, again, it very much might depend on what piece of legislation that you're looking at. But thinking of to what I know Lauren chimed in earlier about and others did, of wondering if there's any funding or money attached to it, right? Being able to know and look at who the sponsor or co-sponsors are of the bill to maybe kind of get a sense of like who are the folks interested and at stake, with this, or maybe, who are the constituents, that are kind of pushing them to, take that action. And then also, thinking from what we were talking about of whether or not like a bill is, kind of neutral or not, or, like how is it truly, like how is it supporting the poor, or like who does this bill impact? And thinking in those sort of ways. But again, depending on what that bill is that you're looking at, or what, like what specifically it is that you're interested in, it might differ to like what questions that you might be, trying to ask, like, if it's around healthcare, like, is it just nibbling around the edges, or is it saying that like healthcare is a human right? And some of those sort of pieces there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. And I do see a couple of things in the chat, and sorry, I'm just trying to go back to the original one. I lost it, but there was a question on that someone had mentioned that there's already an effort to give a driver's license or give immigrants a driver's license. And if this is connected, this is actually that bill. So we were previously known as Lucha in Spanish, Fight for Driver's License, and have now expanded to being MILPA because we've realized, even though our front of struggle and core membership is the movement of immigrant leaders and being immigrant base building, we do know as being part of the PAPPC that even when you get a driver's license, you're not going to have access to healthcare. You're not going to have access to housing, to secure minimum wage, secure rent, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these fronts have been interconnected. So in the effort of are we any closer to getting a driver's license, we are continuing to push House leadership. It is something that we are, like, again, we know that this is not going to go anywhere unless this is a priority for the House Democratic leadership. I will say very briefly, we had a lot of advancements actually under the Republican leadership in this 2022 section. We had 5 Republican co-sponsors. We had a transportation hearing in the Transportation Committee under the Democratic House leadership this past session in 2023. There was no movement on our bill. Our bill didn't even get a policy hearing. So it's not a partisan issue. It was something that they, again, because of cowardness, did not want to move forward. In that Republican session, we had, again, 5 Republicans who put their name on our bill and said they were supportive. But because they said, hey, no, we don't think they're going to want to do this, meaning Republicans are going to want to move this forward, they decided not to do anything. So that's really where our priority is right now, really pushing the House leadership to make this a priority. Well, I'm gonna move forward if there's any other questions. I'm not going to law school. But I am actually, because for what was just mentioned in the chat as well about our overall legislative agenda, I want to go a little bit more in depth into that. As mentioned in the PAPPC, we all know there are several different fronts of struggles, and we have a legislative agenda that, as much as we can, try to promote in each of those subsections. So I'm just going to share a little bit about this. Again, some of these are currently active bills that are going to make their way through the legislature, and some of these are overall general things that we fight for and stand for. So to begin with, just closing out this session of the driver's license, we demand a just immigration system that welcomes our neighbors and is free from the systemic racism that seeks to divide and conquer the working class. This is also part of our national agenda. Specifically for the PA, again, what we are doing here in order to move that forward as part of the Driving PA Forward Coalition and MILPA, we demand the immediate passage of driver's license for all, regardless of immigration status. Another key front of struggle that we've been hearing about is the healthcare system. So we are demanding a healthcare system that prioritizes people over profit and ensures that healthcare is a human right and not a privilege of the ruling class. Specifically, the bills that and campaigns that are being moved forward is demanding, and what we are demanding is the immediate passage of restoring the adult dental benefit and restoring the adult dental benefit in Medicaid, establishing an office of the public healthcare advocates in Pennsylvania, expanding Medicaid eligibility. So again, all of these are interconnected with each other, even though there is one healthcare system that we are all fighting for. It is something that has put people first. We have seen a lot with driver's license, for example. We know a lot that immigrants think just because you are a citizen, you have access to healthcare, which isn't true. We're seeing that more and more, that even those who are citizens of the United States are struggling with healthcare, and that's something that we're beginning to educate each other about and connecting with more and seeing our movement as a poor and working class. Another front of struggle is another active campaign is the cancellation of school lunch debt and universal school lunch. So we're actually going to talk a little bit more about each groups. So definitely encourage folks to get involved. Another key part of that is our March on Harrisburg is the corruption that we have all discussed throughout these sessions. We do not trust our state legislator or governor, as we all know, to actually do anything fundamentally different for the people of Pennsylvania, because corruption actually is legal in our state, and public officials are systemically being corrupted by legal bribery, excuse me. Specifically, we demand the immediate passage of the gift ban, which, as I believe we've already talked about, but it's basically banning anyone from giving gifts to legislators. Pretty simple. The campaign finance reform, a dark money ban, a side jobs ban, which we learned about, and the closing of the revolving door between the state capitol and lobbying firms. As well, we demand to make our votes more meaningful, so doing that through ranked choice voting. Another front of struggle that we have experienced is the climate justice. That's something that we have seen also in our national PAPPC, and something that we are actively working through for the PAC, Pennsylvania Action on Climate. Specifically, we demand the immediate passage of a full stop to all fracking and all new fossil fuel development, and a massive unionized job program to immediately and rapidly remediate our ecological devastation and transition to a green economy based in love and respect for each other and our world. Some of this, and now is an overall, again, platform as well from the national PAPPC agenda. Excuse me. We demand a minimum wage of $25 an hour and the raising of social service eligibility limits. We demand safe and strong communities. We demand housing, transportation, and education as fully funded human rights. And we demand the abolition of poverty. So that's our PAPPC legislative agenda. Again, please feel free to visit our website. That is also on there if you would like to refer back to this as well. I think we might actually have time for a couple of questions if anyone has any. I think we did. There were a couple, and sorry, I was presenting during some parts. So if anyone was keeping track of questions, maybe now's the time where we can answer it.
Yeah, I think in the chat, someone had asked about ranked choice voting. I know Michael Bagdis Canning tossed in a link with more information from MOH on ranked choice voting, and Andrea gave a little summary of ranked choice voting as a way to vote where you get to rank your candidates in order of presence rather than just picking one, kind of getting rid of the lesser of two evils. Strategic voting, it ends a lot of toxicity in politics, and there's some helpful more info there. A preference, thank you. There was that. I know also, I think that there was someone else asking. Oh yeah, no, we had already said of the driver's license. But maybe if folks, as we, keep on going here, if you have, maybe it's one question, maybe if it's just like one reflection, or takeaway thus far from tonight, or even, just from this series, if you want to take a second, just take a second right now, type it in the chat, but don't hit enter. You can type it in the chat, don't hit enter yet, but type in maybe what that one maybe reflection is, maybe that one question. And then we'll see of, maybe a flood of them, and we'll see if there's any that we can try to get to or get to group. And even if we can't get to things right now tonight, right, we have one more session, and we certainly can try to help to email, different information and stuff out to folks or follow up. But go ahead, for those folks who maybe tossed in a question or who have a reflection, go ahead, hit enter, toss that into the chat. I know I already see some. Shal asking about, can we add ranked choice voting for PA? Yes, we can and we should. And as Michael Magnus Canning said, MOH is actively pursuing this now. I know Jacqueline saying very grateful for these sessions. Very old, and some of the details of this are news to me, which is a-okay, right? We're all learning at the same time. There's various things like the capitalization of bills that I was like, I have no idea what this is. And that's okay, but that's why we're in this together, right? Because not any one of us knows everything, right? We're all here to kind of play to our strengths and support one another, and continuing to go on in these ways. But go ahead, if folks, if there are other questions or things that come to mind, feel free to put them in the chat. And then otherwise, we can certainly sort of keep rolling, if not.
Yeah, I see from Lynn in the chat. It's good to learn what empty bills are, what the meaningless words are. Definitely agree. And then I definitely want to highlight one comment, and I think I might have lost it by now from Najmi, that highlighting, yes, exactly how we all know that politicians pit us against one another. And that's why everything that we're doing here together is so powerful. We know that they don't want us to work together. They don't want us to be aware of each and every one of these fights. They don't want us to know how to read a bill. And that's why it's so important to continue these educations. And I definitely am really grateful to everyone and seeing all of these things going on in the chat.
And then I don't know if Melanie, you want to retype your question, or can I answer it? You're saying of how do we, oops, sorry, now it just flipped for me. How do we get the 18% on poor should be more? I don't know if you can explain of what 18% that you're referring to, or if I'm not just thinking of, or I missed whatever the context.
When they were showing the wheels a little while ago, they were showing 81% goes to the rich and big business, and only 18 go to the poor. How do we get that number larger?
I got you. Referring to the bills from the kind of analysis thing. Thank you for chiming in, Melanie, with that. Yeah, I mean, I think, in part one is being in spaces like this and organizing together, really educating one another and continuing to go out to, fight to make sure that that is that way, right? It's not just going to be handed to us on a silver platter. We have to, organize and fight for these things. We have to, fight tooth and nail just to get certain language into a bill, or, to be able to get a bill to have a policy hearing, or get a bill to be passed through committee, in some of those ways. And, continuing to organize and get folks, who might not be involved, and understandably so, right, of not a lot of the times having the time or having the energy, but really trying to bring folks into this movement, I think, starts to push and move that 18% to go higher, and to make sure that we can, have things like universal health care and have driver's licenses and all of these things. So hopefully that answered that question, Melanie, and certainly if other folks want to chime in with it, feel free. And yeah, and I love Michael saying uniting the working class. Robin saying learning so much attending these classes. Thank you for all putting this together. Thank you for your time. Yeah, working together. And yes, we need these nice things now, not tomorrow, not a month from now, not years, now, yesterday, day before, those ways. But otherwise, if that is, if those are the questions, and feel free if there are other questions that folks want to chime in with in the chat, feel free. But otherwise, we might popcorn it over to Jeff as we do some reminders and close some things out.
Sure, thank you. I realize I forgot to introduce myself earlier in the presentation. So I'm Jeff Kaiser. I am a volunteer with March on Harrisburg. Those of you interested in ranked choice voting, I could talk about it all day. But for those of you asking, what can we do? How do we make that 18% larger? We organize. If there is a PPCPA group here that kind of fits your interests, please get involved if you aren't already. So the Put People First PA is for healthcare. PA Debt Collective is trying to get rid of debt. March on Harrisburg, we try to get rid of the corruption and improve democracy, et cetera, et cetera. Julissa was talking about MILPA. PA Action on Climate, they are very climate focused, and then UU Justice PA, minimum wage and other things like that. So if any of those interest you, you would want to probably find that group and see if you can get involved. Or joining the PA PPC directly. We've got many different working groups within the organization, the faith team leaders, the comms, base building, et cetera. Everybody has their own skills and can help out in different ways. So again, within an organization, you can find the team that you can best contribute to. Becoming a mobilizing partner. If there's an organization who wants to assist with PAPPC, we need more partner organizations to help us with actions, getting the word out about PAPPC communications, etc. So we're looking for other organizations to help us and join with us. And that's it for week 4. Next week, we're going to take all this information that we have collected together over the last 4 weeks, and we're going to put together a plan to actually go talk to our legislators about these bills that we would like to see passed. So that's going to be the topic of next week on March 31st. So thank you all for coming today, and we hope to see you one last time next week.
Yeah, and to folks I know, just mentioning in the chat a couple last things, just to as we sort of like close and wrap. Of certainly, if you've signed up for something like, let's say, Put People First, or maybe one of the committees, definitely be on the lookout. As folks will probably be reaching out. I forget of who is the lead for the Arts and Cultures Committee, but if there's a particular email that anyone can throw in the chat in regards to that. And then certainly there was, a question on, was there ever a time in history where the percentage was higher and more emphasis on the working class? And certainly I feel like that there has been, but, we might not have, let's say, the same bill analysis, right, that we conducted to match that in those ways. But certainly something to keep in mind. But I know as always, at the end of these calls, we have done our wonderful call and response, as I say. So I encourage everyone to thank you, Nishmi. I thought it was Butterly, but I was like spacing and didn't want to say so and then be wrong. But if folks, want to come off mute, and we will do our wonderful forward together, not one step back. So get ready for it. Come off mute. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Oh, I love that. Well, I hope folks can have a good rest of your evening. Definitely be on the lookout for an email recap reminder with the recording, as well as, kind of the slides and anything else. And certainly, keeping in mind all the wonderful questions that were asked, and trying to help, maybe provide some of those guiding questions for a bill or some of those other pieces. And again, we're all doing this together. And it's, through that and with that, that we keep on going, in many of those ways. What's the other thing that I like? The, oh gosh, no, I can't remember it. Taking one step, or going together, you go far. Going alone, you don't go as far. I forget the quote. I'm terrible now. So someone else can correct me. Yes, but we are getting in step. But I hope folks have a good rest of your night. Have a great week. We'll see you all next week for the final session. It is so wonderful to be here with you all.
Hi,
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Appreciate y'all.
Love
Have a
you
good
all.
night. Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Oh.